The alien stared, and for the first time, confusion clouded its face. It had seen countless worlds bow, countless civilizations crumble under the weight of its fleet. Yet here on this pale blue world, there was something it couldn't predict, something human. They told the invaders Earth was defenseless, that humanity was weak, fractured, fragile, and they were right on paper. Small armies, scattered technologies, fragile cities, but no report, no data, no calculation could ever capture the chaos of a human heart. High above the clouds, the first scouting ships of the Empire drifted like shadows over the sprawling continents. They had been programmed to observe, to analyze, to report. They were supposed to wait for the command that would annihilate, that would reduce Earth to little more than a cautionary tale in the Empire's archives. But something about this planet made even the cold logic of their processors hesitate. On the ground, humanity went about its ordinary business. Children laughed in schoolyards. Farmers tilled their soil. Engineers hunched over their machines, oblivious to the cosmic eyes watching them. And yet, in those ordinary lives, the extraordinary was brewing. Lieutenant crouched behind the shattered remains of a building, scanning the horizon through her battered scope. The warning sirens had gone off hours ago, but she didn't flinch. Her hands were steady. Her mind, a whirl of calculations and memories, the ones that mattered. She remembered her father, a soldier who had told her, "Courage isn't knowing you'll survive. Courage is standing when everything screams you won't." The Empire's fleet descended quietly at first, almost respectfully. A single cruiser sliced the atmosphere like a knife, its hull glinting in the morning sun. They expected to intimidate. They expected compliance. And yet, as humans gathered on the streets, fists clenched, faces upturned, their engines didn't roar in fear. Their eyes burned with something the Empire had never encountered, unflinching defiance. His voice crackled over the comms, calm and measured. "They're here. Don't fire until you see the first move. Remember what we are fighting for: Earth, yes, but also the right to exist, the right to never bow." Her squad nodded, faces pale but determined. Behind her, the city was a ruin, yet alive, graffiti on walls, songs on the wind, messages scratched into concrete. "We will not break." The first shot came as a test, almost an experiment. A pulse of energy tore through the sky, vaporizing the edge of the city. And still, humanity did not run. Squad returned fire, not with the expectation of winning, that was impossible, but with the certainty that they would not yield quietly. The alien cruiser quivered in orbit, sending warnings down to its fleet. Why aren't they fleeing? Why do they fight with no chance of survival? It could not comprehend humor under pressure, loyalty that transcended logic, courage that burned brighter than any engine in its armada. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, the first human countermeasures activated. Improvised weapons, rerouted satellites, even old space debris weaponized with ingenuity that no algorithm could predict. The fleet faltered. One cruiser broke apart in a flash of blue fire, a soundless explosion that shattered the serene skies. And still the humans moved forward, adjusted her stance, her eyes locking onto a distant ship that hovered with mechanical arrogance. She whispered to herself almost shyly, "They think this is science. It's heart." A laugh rose from somewhere behind her, not of joy, but of pure, unshakable defiance. She realized then what the Empire had never understood. Humans were unpredictable not because of recklessness, but because of something far deeper. The infinite stubbornness to survive, to protect, to endure, and to fight even when hope seemed gone. Above, the alien commander watched its calculations crumble. Every expectation of fear, every prediction of compliance, every assessment of weakness was wrong. Humanity was alive. More than that, humanity was unbreakable. The wind shifted, carrying the sound of sirens, shouts, and distant explosions. And in that chaos felt something profound. She was afraid. Every human was, yet fear did not paralyze them. It sharpened them, made them sharper than the steel that hung over their heads. The Empire had underestimated them. Earth had been judged by the wrong metrics. And in the coming hours, the first seeds of a lesson that would echo across the stars were being sown, that no fleet, no technology, no empire could measure the unquantifiable, the heart of a human. And in the quiet before the next wave whispered, "Let them come, we're ready." They thought the humans would panic, that the cities would crumble before the first strike, that the sky filled with alien fire would break their spirit. But the humans didn't flinch, not yet. Watched from her vantage point as smoke curled into the evening sky. The city was, walls crumbled, fires burning like tiny suns on the ground. And still, humans moved among the chaos. They carried the wounded, salvaged, broken weapons, shouted instructions in voices raw with adrenaline but steady with purpose. Her comm crackled again. "Lieutenant, we've detected movement near the northern docks. They're deploying something unusual." She tilted her head, studying the distant silhouettes. Machines, yes, but these weren't standard military vehicles. Improvised, jury-rigged, a strange mix of old Earth tech and human ingenuity. They moved as if guided by instinct, yet orchestrated with precision. Humans were dangerous not because of brute strength, but because they were unpredictable architects of chaos. The alien fleet above had paused. Their sensors screamed confusion. Every tactical analysis suggested these humans should have surrendered hours ago. They should have crumbled, yet here they were, reorganizing, striking, surviving. Every countermeasure they deployed seemed absurd, almost desperate, yet it worked. And with every success, the humans grew bolder. Adjusted her helmet, the hum of her suit blending with the distant rumble of alien engines. She thought of her brother, lost in the first wave of attacks. She thought of the countless lives she had to protect. The odds were astronomical, the enemy a force unlike any humanity had faced before, yet her heart held a stubborn refusal to yield. "They told us it's impossible," she murmured, eyes fixed on the approaching fleet. "And we're proving them wrong again and again." On the docks, engineers and volunteers worked side by side, loading weapons into the makeshift vehicles. Sparks flew, metal groaned, and yet the humans moved with precision. Felt a swell of pride, not personal pride, but something deeper. A recognition of the unshakable resilience that bound them all together. Courage was not the absence of fear, it was acting in spite of it. The first engagement of the evening was sudden, brutal. A drone swerved out of the alien cruiser's formation, targeting a group of vehicles moving along the docks. His heart jumped, but the humans didn't falter. Nets of electromagnetic pulses shot into the air, disabling the drone mid-flight. It plummeted into the river with a hiss of molten metal, and the humans continued their march as though nothing had happened. Above, the alien commanders conferred, their voices cold, calculated. "These humans, they do not fear death. They strategize under stress. They innovate under fire. This is illogical." Could feel it too. The alien arrogance, the assumption that survival could be measured in numbers and firepower, was their first mistake. Humans were unpredictable because their strength wasn't mechanical. It wasn't technological. It was emotional, moral, relentless. A calculation could never predict loyalty, courage, humor, or the fierce determination to protect those you love. She remembered a phrase her father had repeated: "The heart beats beyond calculation." And it was true. Even as explosions rocked the city, even as alien fire tore apart buildings, even as screams filled the streets, humans moved forward. They pulled the wounded from wreckage. They fought back not because they believed in victory, but because they refused to be broken. Squad advanced, their movements synchronized with the strange rhythm of human defiance. Every corner held potential death. Every shadow could conceal destruction. Yet every step forward was a testament to an unyielding truth. Humans were not just survivors. They were a force born of hope and stubborn will. A sudden flare illuminated the sky. A cruiser had fallen, ripped apart by a combination of human strategy and improvisation. Silence followed. The alien fleet recoiled, confused and shaken, and in that quiet allowed herself a breath. Somewhere in the distance, a child's voice rang out. Not fear, not despair, just laughter. And for a moment it was more powerful than any weapon. It reminded, and anyone watching, why they fought. Not for territory, not for conquest, but for life itself, for the spark that refused to be snuffed out, for the human spirit that no calculation could ever extinguish. The night deepened and the alien fleet hovered, stunned. They had underestimated the humans. They had assumed weakness. They had assumed fear. And they were learning the hard way that humanity's true weapon was not in their machines, but in their hearts. Looked to the horizon, to the dark silhouettes of the fleet. Her hands clenched the controls. "Let them come," she whispered. "We're just getting started." And in the silence that followed, the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what the humans would do next. The sky was a canvas of fire and shadow. Each flash from the alien fleet lit the ruins of Earth in stark contrast, a world battered but not broken. And somewhere in the midst of the chaos, humans moved like shadows themselves, fluid, relentless, refusing to be counted as casualties before they even fell. Squad advanced through the crumbled streets, each step measured, each heartbeat a drum of defiance. She had always believed courage was an abstract concept until she felt it thrum beneath her skin, palpable in every breath. Fear had been there, yes, but it did not dictate her actions. Fear was a tool, a reminder of stakes, a catalyst to push harder, run faster, fight smarter. "They think they've cornered us," she said quietly, almost to herself. "They think they've predicted every move, but they don't understand humans, not really." Behind her, a volunteer engineer tripped over rubble, dropping a crate of explosives, turned just in time to catch him. A fleeting smile passed between them, brief, human, unshakable. Humor, she realized, was just another weapon. A way to mock fear, to signal resilience, to remind the soul that even in the shadow of annihilation, life could still laugh. The alien drones swarmed, like clouds of metallic hornets. They struck fast, precise, calculating each trajectory with cold efficiency. And yet, for every attack, the humans adapted. Old communications satellites rerouted like improvised mirrors, reflecting energy pulses back. Abandoned shipping containers became shields. Even the rivers themselves were weaponized, their currents manipulated to carry debris that could cripple the fleet's landing craft. Her eyes narrowed as she watched a cruiser falter in orbit, its systems overloaded by something no algorithm could predict, the sheer unpredictability of human ingenuity. The aliens called it chaos. Humans called it instinct, improvisation, life. In the midst of the firefight, thought of her brother lost in the opening strikes. He had been reckless, eager to prove himself. She had feared he would be gone forever. But here, she saw his legacy reflected in every human action, bravery that bordered on madness but was grounded in purpose. The refusal to let the impossible dictate fate. A sudden blast threw her off balance. Smoke filled her mask, hot and suffocating. Yet even as the world shook, pushed forward, dragging herself through the wreckage. She emerged onto a bridge, overlooking the river where human vehicles moved like a living tide, each one carrying the weight of determination that no alien sensor could quantify. "They're organized," one of the engineers shouted over the comms. "Not just fighting, fighting smart, using the environment, their knowledge, their instincts. How are they doing this?" Smiled grimly. Because humans adapt, because humans survive, because humans never stop. Above them, the alien fleet hesitated. Their calculations had failed. Their strategic models crumbled with every human counterattack. A cruiser was destroyed, then another, each one falling like a stone into the river of chaos below. And with each loss, the humans grew bolder, their morale rising not despite fear, but because of it. On the streets, civilians joined the fight in small but decisive ways. A teacher armed with scavenged rifles covered retreating squads. A farmer used his tractor to block an advancing drone. The children were kept away, yes, but even their presence mattered, a reminder that the people fighting were defending something infinitely larger than themselves. Something worth dying for, something worth winning for. Thoughts turned inward to the question that had haunted her since the first sight of the alien fleet. Why us? Why Earth? Why humans? And then she realized the answer wasn't in strategy or might, it was in spirit. The Empire had never faced humans before, not truly. They had faced empires, kingdoms, races with rigid hierarchies and predictable behaviors. Humans were none of that. Humans were chaotic brilliance wrapped in fragile flesh. Humans were stubbornness, humor, loyalty, and love combined into one defiant package. Humans were unpredictable, uncalculated, unstoppable. The sun dipped lower, streaking the sky with fire, as if the world itself were witnessing the defiance. Looked at her squad, tired, bleeding, but unbroken. Every eye mirrored the same realization. They were not pawns. They were not expendable. They were human, and that meant something far greater than the Empire could ever understand. As night fell, the alien fleet regrouped in orbit, wary now. They had underestimated humans, and underestimation was deadly. On the ground, the humans prepared for the next wave, knowing it would come, knowing the fight would not be easy, knowing yet again that the only thing separating survival from annihilation was their unyielding will. Adjusted her stance, feeling the rhythm of battle in her bones. We fight because we have to, we survive because we must, and we win because we will, nothing else matters. And in that quiet moment, as the wind carried the distant echoes of explosions and human shouts, a thought crystallized in her mind. No matter how advanced the enemy, no matter how hopeless the odds, humanity's heart cannot be measured, cannot be predicted, cannot be defeated. The first stars appeared above, and with them a promise: they would endure, they would resist. They would make the Empire remember that some forces are born not of numbers, but of unshakable spirit. The night was alive with distant fires and the hum of alien engines. Somewhere between the ruins of cities and the blackened horizon, humanity was preparing to strike back, not in despair, but in defiance. Stood atop the remnants of a collapsed building, watching her squad move with a rhythm that felt almost alive. Every motion, every glance, every whispered instruction spoke of one unshakable truth: they would not bow. "They think fear can control us," murmured, her voice almost drowned by the wind. "They don't understand what it is to fight for everything you love. They don't understand humans." Across the river, improvised human barricades glowed with makeshift incendiaries. Civilians, engineers, soldiers, all of them had converged, unified not by rank or order, but by purpose. The aliens had assumed chaos would weaken them. Instead, it sharpened them. Every broken building was a trap, every alleyway a calculated ambush, every heartbeat a silent challenge: "Come, test us." A drone zipped overhead, scanning, calculating. Its sensors locked onto. A pulse shot out, but it never reached her. A civilian, a young man with a welding mask and nerves of steel, had jammed the signal with improvised electronics, blinked in disbelief for a fraction of a second, and then smiled. Humanity had no training manual for courage, yet every human instinct was sharper than any machine. Her squad moved forward, hearts hammering. The ruins of a once bustling district echoed with the memories of laughter, of ordinary life. Now it rang with shouts and gunfire, felt the weight of survival pressing down on them, yet within that pressure a strange exhilaration. Fear was not a cage, it was the fuel of action. From above, the alien fleet watched. Their calculations had failed. Their strategies, flawless on paper, crumbled in reality. The humans were unpredictable, adaptive, relentless. Realized that the fleet could never truly understand why. They could not feel loyalty, could not comprehend humor under fire, could not grasp the stubbornness that drove every human heart. An explosion ripped through the streets below, throwing debris into the night sky. Squad dove for cover. Yet even in the chaos, the humans moved forward. A mother pulled her child from the rubble, shielding him with her body. A teacher threw a crude Molotov, hitting an advancing mech drone. Every act of survival was also an act of defiance, a statement that humanity would not yield, not today, not ever. Thoughts drifted to her father's voice. Courage is not knowing you will survive. Courage is standing when everything screams you won't. And she realized this was more than courage. This was the essence of humanity, not perfect, not invincible, but unbreakable. A force that could not be measured by sensors, predicted by models, or defeated by overwhelming firepower. The alien commander adjusted his tactical displays. Why do they not fear? Why do they not surrender? Why do they fight despite certainty of loss? Every answer eluded him. The humans were beyond prediction. Their resilience, their cunning, their laughter under fire, all of it was anomaly, a variable no logic could contain. Below, squad coordinated with a series of signal fires and improvised radios. Messages flickered across the night like sparks of rebellion. Every signal directed another human squad, another civilian unit, another improvised weapon to the right place at the right time. The humans were not organized like an army. They were alive like a storm, chaotic, relentless, and unstoppable. A cruiser faltered in orbit. Another followed. And then, in an act of pure improvisation, humans triggered a chain of explosions along the river docks, sending a barrage of debris and fire into the fleet. Could see the reflection of destruction in the water, shimmering like an unbroken heartbeat. And somewhere in the wreckage, laughter rose again, not because they were safe, but because they were alive. Every victory, every clever maneuver, every unpredicted strike was a statement. Humans could not be measured, could not be controlled, could not be defeated by logic alone. His chest heaved as she watched her world burn and rebuild itself simultaneously. They were vulnerable, yes. Fragile, yes. But in that fragility lay their true strength. They fought not because they would survive, but because survival was meaningless without the courage to fight. The night stretched onward, shadows and fire, adjusted her stance, scanning the horizon, feeling the rhythm of defiance in her bones. She whispered to herself, almost a prayer, "Let them come, let them test us, let them see what humans are made of." And in the quiet, between the explosions and the shouts, the first hint of dawn crept over the horizon, casting light on a world still standing, still fighting, still human. The first light of dawn was deceptive. It painted the ruins in soft gold, as if hiding the scars, as if whispering promises of calm. But knew better. Dawn did not bring peace. Dawn brought clarity, a reckoning. The alien fleet had paused, observing, calculating, confused. They had underestimated humanity once, twice, and each time the humans had responded with ingenuity and ferocity that no machine could predict. "They think the night gives them advantage," said, her voice tight with determination. "They think fear can bend us, but they forget one truth: humans do not bend, humans rise." Her squad moved through the streets, navigating around rubble and fire, their every step purposeful. Civilians followed where they could, carrying food, medicine, or weapons salvaged from abandoned stores. Every human on the ground was part of a larger strategy that no alien calculation could model. Improvisation, courage, and stubbornness were the weapons they wielded most effectively. From above, a cruiser released a swarm of drones designed to flush humans from cover. They moved with inhuman precision, a storm of metal and laser. But the humans were ready. Signaled and hidden squads activated improvised EMP devices, shorting circuits and sending drones plummeting into the streets or rivers. Others used reflective panels to redirect laser fire into advancing mechs. One by one, the alien attacks faltered against the chaos of human adaptability. A young recruit beside whispered, breathless, How are they still holding back?" Sighs never left the horizon. "Because we fight with something they cannot measure. They have firepower, we have heart. They calculate survival, we calculate defiance." The Empire's command struggled to understand. Reports flooded in, losses mounting, drones failing, cruisers disabled by unpredicted tactics. Every metric they trusted crumbled beneath the unpredictable ingenuity of humans. Realized with a cold clarity that they were no longer observers. They were learning, too late, that humans were not a species to be conquered through fear alone. On the ground, squad found themselves surrounded by a small detachment of alien walkers. The machines towered over them, bristling with weapons. A civilian behind them froze, placed a hand on his shoulder. "Run if you must, fight if you can, but don't give them your fear." The first human volley was chaos incarnate. Bullets, explosives, and pure instinct combined in a way that logic. A walker fell, entangled in twisted metal and fire, unable to comprehend why its superior programming had failed. Felt a surge of pride and grief all at once. The city was burning, her brother was gone, yet here in the ruins, humans refused to be crushed. A laugh rang out, not hysterical, not desperate, but pure, unyielding. The kind of laugh that exists only when danger is immediate and hope is slim. Glanced toward the sound. A small group of teenagers had rigged a set of abandoned vehicles to create a moving trap for a walker unit. It was reckless, brilliant, human. "They think strategy is everything," said quietly, almost to herself. "They don't understand improvisation. They don't understand courage. They don't understand heart." As the battle stretched into mid-morning, the alien fleet became cautious. Their arrogance was cracking. They had believed themselves unstoppable, but humans did not calculate their victories. They earned them through sweat, ingenuity, and a defiance that refused to be measured. Felt it too, a swell of hope tempered by exhaustion, fear, and grief. Every victory had a cost. Every step forward was a reminder that survival was not given, it was fought for. In the distance, a cruiser attempted a concentrated strike on the city's remaining strongholds. Knew the attack would come, and she prepared her squad. They were outnumbered, yet not outwilled. A human spirit could not be predicted, could not be extinguished. The first blast hit the river, sending up a wall of water and fire. Humans didn't scatter. They pressed on, adapting, improvising, striking back with unexpected tactics. His voice rang over the comms. "Hold your ground, not for the city, not for victory, but for who we are. Humans never surrender." The alien commander watched from orbit, panic creeping into logic circuits. They had faced armies before. They had destroyed civilizations. But humans were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They were unpredictable, stubborn, and clever. They laughed while dying, fought while wounded, and rose when broken. Lowered her rifle for a moment, taking in the chaos. The fires reflected in her eyes, and she whispered almost reverently, "Let them learn. Let them see what humans are made of." And above the ruins, the first ships of the Empire faltered in orbit, beginning to realize that this war was not one they could win with firepower alone. Humanity had something the Empire could never steal: heart, defiance, and the refusal to bow. The alien fleet hovered, uncertain, over a world that refused to break, stood atop a crumbling overpass, watching the horizon burn. Smoke and fire mixed with the morning light, painting the city in violent gold and shadow. Every building destroyed, every street leveled, every loss felt like it should have signaled the end, but it didn't. Humanity moved forward, always forward. "They thought fear would stop us," whispered, her voice cutting through the hum of distant explosions. "They thought fire would bend us, but fire doesn't break humans, fire sharpens them." Beneath her, the humans were already in motion. Civilians dragged salvageable debris into barricades. Engineers rewired old generators into energy traps, and scouts moved silently between shadows, carrying messages, weapons, and hope. Each action was small, yet together they formed a web of ingenuity that no alien sensor could fully understand. Squad was in the middle of it, navigating streets strewn with the remnants of war. Each corner held danger, yet the humans pressed on. Improvisation had become their weapon, courage their shield, and defiance their armor. A young recruit stumbled, her leg grazed by shrapnel, dropped to help her, pressing a bandage into the wound with practiced hands. "Pain isn't weakness," said quietly. "It's a signal. It tells us we're alive, and alive means we fight." The alien commander in orbit adjusted its strategy for the 10th time that day. Calculations that should have guaranteed victory crumbled before the raw unpredictability of human creativity. Every attempt to predict, corral, or crush them failed. A cruiser was disabled by a chain of events, so improbable it would have seemed impossible on paper. Humans using gravity, debris, and pure instinct to turn the planet's terrain into a weapon. "They improvise with purpose," the commander said, its voice tight in translation. "They coordinate with no formal command structure. They adapt in real time. Why do they not fear death?" Could answer that question without words. Humans fought because survival alone was not enough. They fought for each other, for their homes, for memories of those lost, and for the unspoken promise that even in the shadow of annihilation, life was worth defending. Another explosion rocked the district and felt the ground shake beneath her feet. Her squad dived for cover, yet even as the fire rained down, civilians continued their work. A group of teenagers rigged an old tram to roll toward an advancing mech drone, detonating its engines with precise timing. The explosion was both destructive and poetic, a testament to human ingenuity and audacity. Grinned through the dust and smoke. "They calculate with numbers," she said to no one in particular. "We calculate with heart." From the riverside, engineers launched improvised projectiles, barrels filled with explosives, carried downstream to intercept enemy units. The alien fleet faltered, its formations breaking under tactics that could not be predicted, never mind countered. Every human innovation was an echo of the same message: we are alive, we are clever, we will not be conquered. And then, in a moment of quiet that seemed impossible amidst the chaos, noticed something extraordinary. Survivors were helping one another, lifting the wounded, sharing resources, even comforting the terrified. Every act, however small, amplified the resilience of the whole. Humanity was more than tactics, more than courage, more than firepower. Humanity was community, a living network of defiance, hope, and relentless will. Looked skyward, a cruiser hesitated above, damaged and faltering. She whispered almost reverently, "Do you see them? They think steel and lasers can break what is eternal in us. They don't understand humans. The squad moved forward, now joined by volunteers carrying improvised shields and weapons. Felt a rush of pride, not personal but universal, the pride of a species that refused to be defined by weakness, that refused to bow, that refused to die quietly. A distant siren wailed. The Empire was regrouping, preparing for another strike. Eyes gleamed. "Let them come," she said. "Every time they strike, we adapt. Every time they aim to break us, we prove them wrong. They will learn and they will remember that humans do not surrender." As the sun climbed higher, casting light on the shattered city, one undeniable truth became clear. The Empire had underestimated humans. They had measured with machines, calculated with logic, predicted with algorithms. But they had not accounted for heart, defiance, and the indomitable spirit of life itself. And in that moment, felt the pulse of humanity in the air, in the streets, in the laughter and shouts that rose above the fire and ruin. It was more powerful than any weapon, more precise than any algorithm, and unstoppable as the tide. The war was far from over. But knew this, the humans of Earth would endure, they would fight, they would survive, and the Empire would never forget the lesson. The alien fleet hovered, fractured and hesitant. Each cruiser that had once radiated invincibility now drifted like wounded predators, scanning the ground for a threat they could not predict, could not calculate, could not understand. Humanity had transformed the battlefield, not through sheer firepower, but through imagination, courage, and unbreakable will. Moved along the ruined streets with her squad, each step a testament to stubborn persistence. Smoke swirled around them, mingling with the morning light, creating shifting shadows where humans could strike and retreat in fluid motion. Improvised barricades, camouflaged traps, and synchronized ambushes made every inch of the city a battlefield designed not by strategy manuals, but by instinct and ingenuity. "They thought chaos would destroy us," whispered to her squad, voice low but firm. "They thought fear would bend us. They are learning slowly that humans are not built to bow." From above, a cruiser fired a concentrated strike at a civilian stronghold. Squad dove for cover as debris rained down. But even as the dust settled, humans emerged from the rubble, directing survivors to safe paths, rigging traps, and setting up counterattacks. One young woman had managed to salvage a piece of alien tech, reprogramming it into a makeshift turret. Another group redirected water from broken mains to flood the streets, immobilizing advancing drones. Every action was unpredictable, audacious, and devastatingly effective. Felt her chest tighten, exhaustion, fear, and pride all mixed into a single, sharp pulse. She glanced at her squad. They were battered, bleeding, and trembling, yet every eye burned with the same truth. Humans fought because they had to, yes, but also because they could. Because surrender was not in their nature. Because hope, however fragile, was stronger than fear. "They think they can break us with numbers," said, watching a cruiser falter as debris struck its hull. "But numbers do not define humanity. Heart defines humanity, and we have more heart than they can ever comprehend." The alien commander adjusted its formation again, desperation creeping into its logic circuits. Every assumption about human behavior had failed. Their predictions were useless. Their superior firepower had been neutralized by ingenuity, audacity, and adaptability. They could not fathom the human instinct to protect, to fight for one another, to laugh in the face of annihilation. And then, in a single breathtaking moment, humanity struck back. Squad coordinated with engineers and volunteers to detonate a series of energy traps across the city. Fires erupted across multiple districts simultaneously, drawing cruisers and walkers into zones prepared by humans. The explosions were precise, yet improvised, unpredictable, chaotic, and devastating. One by one, enemy units faltered, fell, and burned. A cheer rose from the humans below, raw and defiant. It was not joy, not yet. It was the sound of a species refusing to be extinguished. Felt her pulse sync with it, a rhythm older than technology, older than fear. Humans were not just fighting. Humans were claiming their right to exist, and they did it with every ounce of brilliance and stubbornness they possessed. The alien commander could not reconcile the reality. Every tactical advantage they had assumed was gone. Every calculation useless, every prediction irrelevant. Humanity did not act according to logic because humans were not logic. Humans were heart, will, and defiance made flesh. Squad moved through the chaos, dragging the wounded, issuing orders, improvising traps, and taking down alien units with audacious ingenuity. A soldier beside her laughed as he toppled a walker using nothing but gravity, a crate, and sheer timing. Couldn't help but smile. Humor under fire, that inexplicable, irrational spark, was humanity's secret weapon. The sun climbed higher, illuminating the ruins and the fleet above. Slowly, deliberately realized the truth. The tide had shifted. Humanity had survived the impossible. They had turned desperation into creativity, fear into courage, chaos into strategy. And the Empire was learning Earth was not defenseless. Earth would not bow. Looked toward the horizon, toward the remaining enemy ships, and whispered, "This is who we are, and they will never forget it." Above, the alien fleet hesitated, stunned by the impossible, a species unbroken, unbent, unbowed. Humans had become more than survivors. Humans had become a force the galaxy could not ignore, a reminder that some power is not measured by weapons but by heart. And in that moment, amid smoke, fire, and victory hard-won, understood something fundamental. Humanity's greatest weapon was not technology, not strategy, not numbers. It was the indomitable will to stand, to fight, to live, even when everything said they should fall. The sky above Earth was no longer calm. It was alive with fire, smoke, and the hum of engines, both human and alien. But the difference was clear. Humanity was no longer reacting. Humanity was leading. Stood at the edge of a ruined plaza, her squad gathered behind her, weary but unbroken. The fires reflected in their eyes, mirroring the same realization. The humans of Earth had survived what no one thought possible. They had endured bombardments, ambushes, and annihilation attempts, and now they were ready to reclaim their world. "They think their fleet is unstoppable," said, voice cutting through the roar of engines and explosions. "They think technology defines the victor, but they forget one thing: humans define themselves, and we will never surrender." Below them, civilians worked alongside soldiers, engineers alongside volunteers. Barricades became launch points. Debris became weapons. Water, fire, metal, and stone all became part of a single, unified human defense. And every act of courage, every small, seemingly insignificant decision, became a thread in the fabric of their resistance. The alien fleet hesitated, trembling under the realization that their power could not overcome the chaotic brilliance of humanity. They had underestimated humans at every turn. They had assumed fear, hesitation, and surrender. But humans had none of those in the measures the aliens expected. Humans were wild, clever, adaptive, stubborn. Humans were heart incarnate. Squad signaled as another wave of improvised projectiles hurtled toward the hovering cruisers. Explosions erupted in rapid succession, a symphony of chaos that dismantled ships designed to be untouchable. The humans moved with precision born not of training manuals, but of instinct, courage, and a refusal to bow. She glanced at her squad, noting every scar, every wound, every flicker of exhaustion, and yet none of them wavered. Humanity did not wait for perfection. Humanity did not wait for orders. Humanity acted, and in every action they declared a truth the galaxy would soon learn: you do not conquer humans, you survive them if you can. A cruiser toppled in a flash of blue fire, its systems destroyed by a combination of debris, human ingenuity, and sheer audacity. Another followed. And then, in a breathtaking display, humans coordinated a chain reaction of improvised strikes across the city, each one hitting critical points in the alien formation. The fleet faltered, scattered, and finally, for the first time, retreated, leaving behind wreckage and disbelief. Let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Around her, the city, battered, alive, echoed with cheers, shouts, and laughter, not triumphant or naive, but pure, unshakable relief. Humanity had survived the impossible. Humanity had turned desperation into victory. Humanity had reminded the universe what it meant to endure. She thought of her brother, her father, her squad, the civilians, the teachers, the engineers, the children who had laughed and cried and fought. Every life lost, every risk taken, every improvised strike had been a heartbeat of defiance. And that heartbeat had been stronger than any alien calculation, stronger than any fleet. The wind carried the faint sounds of music, songs of survival that had begun in basements, streets, and ruined buildings. Smiled. Humor, courage, hope, all of it had survived the storm. All of it had prevailed. The Empire would remember this day, not for their power, but for the unbreakable spirit of humans who refused to be bowed. Raised her hand to the sky. "Let them see it," she whispered. "Let the stars remember who we are. Let them know humans are not defenseless. Humans are unstoppable." And in that moment, as the alien fleet disappeared into the void, Earth itself seemed to breathe. The planet was yet alive. Its people were battered yet unbroken. Its heart, humanity's heart, beat louder than any engine, brighter than any weapon, and fiercer than any conqueror could ever imagine. The sun rose, washing the ruins in gold. Looked out over the city, feeling a quiet, profound truth settle in her soul. No force in the galaxy could measure courage, predict hope, or crush defiance. Humanity was not just alive. Humanity was eternal in its spirit. And so the story of Earth's defense would echo across the stars. Not as a tale of brute strength, but as a testament to the one thing no enemy could calculate, predict, or destroy: the human heart. Smiled, her voice barely more than a whisper as she looked at the horizon. "We are humans, and we are unstoppable.